curiouser and curiouser. Hello Internet, this is Andrew, and today we are going to be reading the first chapter of Life of Pi. Yes, that was a line from Lewis Carroll's Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, and oddly enough, these two books are linked in my mind already. So as I've said, I've never read Life of Pi before by Yann Martel, but before I start reading the first chapter, I'm going to tell you what little I do know about it. And what little I do know about it is that I was a dick to Yann Martel once. Not actually, but let's get into it. So a couple months ago, actually, Yann Martel did 2 public speaks at a local university. The first speak I wasn't able to attend, and I think the topic was life and death. But the second one, on which I did attend, the theme of the talk was imagination. So first off, I went to go because my cousin, who I live with, I know, read Life of Pi by Yann Martel, and I decided I'd get him a signed copy. But I haven't read it myself, so I didn't want to get a signed copy in case I didn't like it. And then I started thinking, well, what can I do? Because I am going to meet Yann Martel. I don't know how many times in my life I'm going to meet the man, but I decided I did want something signed. But I didn't want to just get like a piece of paper signed or like a bookmark or something like that. And the theme of the night was imagination, so I thought, well, I love Alice in Wonderland, which is all about imagination. So I am one of the few people in life who has a signed copy of Alice in Wonderland by Yann Martel. He did it at a local university, he dated it, and he said, to Andrew, you have a great imagination. So that is what I know of Yann Martel himself. What do I know of the book, Life of Pi? I know that there is a film made, Life of Pi. I know it involves a tiger. I actually, because I talked to my cousin after I got him his signed copy, we talked about it a little bit, so I do know the big twist ending to Life of Pi. And I do know that there's actually a part of the book that he put in there kind of to dick around with readers. I know the part, actually I will let you know right now that I'm going to make this signal when I'm done this spoiler. So I'll let you know the spoiler now, and when I make that sign again, that means that the spoiler is done. So go ahead and mute your video now. I will do that signal when the spoiler is done. So I know that there's a part with an island that I believe he said has purple or pink meerkats, and the entire reason for that is to see how far you will let your imagination go. So he literally put it in there to be like one of the most imagination breaking, or like fourth wall breaking, I guess, kind of moments. Kind of the moment there to make you see how far you will go to believe him, and how much of the story you will believe, which has to do with that end spoiler as I mentioned. Yes, so that is what that has to do with. I will talk about that moment when we get to it. And give you my reaction to it, because I do know what it is, but I don't know, I do know what it's for, but I don't know how I'm going to react to it. I know Yann Martel is a Canadian author. Oh, and I know there's a boy in the book who's on the boat with the tiger. As it says on the back, one boy, one boat, one tiger, a modern classic. Yeah, so I guess we're just going to get into it, and I will be reading the first chapter of Life of Pi by Yann Martel. I'm going to skip the author's note. If you have the same edition as me, you will notice that I'm skipping that, as that's technically not part of the book, but there is a part. So I will be starting at Part 1, Toronto and Pondicherry, whatever that means, and I will be reading until Chapter 2. So let's see that. How far is that in? Oh, these chapters are pretty short, actually. And actually, where I see that Chapter 2 is actually just a paragraph, I will be reading that as well. I won't make that a separate video, so we'll be reading until the end of Chapter 2 today. Chapter 1. My suffering left me sad and gloomy. Academic study and the steady mindful practice of religion slowly brought me back to life. I have kept up with what some people would consider my strange religious practices. After 1 year of high school, I attended the University of Toronto and took a double major bachelor's degree. My majors were religious studies and zoology. My fourth year thesis for religious studies concerned certain aspects of the cosmogony theory of Isaac Laurier, the great 16th century Kabbalist from Safed. My zoology thesis was a functional analysis of the thyroid gland of the three-toed sloth. I chose the sloth because its demeanor, calm, quiet, and introspective, did something to soothe my shattered self. There are two-toed sloths and there are three-toed sloths, the case being determined by the forepaws of the animal, since all sloths have 3 claws on their hind paws. I had the great luck of one summer of studying the three-toed sloth in situ in the equatorial jungles of Brazil. It is a highly intriguing creature. Its only real habit is indolence. It sleeps or rests on average 20 hours a day. Our team tested the sleep habits of 5 wild three-toed sloths by placing on their heads in the early evening after they had fallen asleep bright red plastic dishes filled with water. We found them still in place late the next morning, the water of the dishes swarming with insects. The sloth is its busiest at sunset, using the word busy here in the most relaxed sense, and moves along the burrow of a tree in its characteristic upside-down position at the speed of roughly 400 meters an hour. On the ground, it crawls to its next tree at the rate of 250 meters an hour when motivated, which is 440 times slower than a motivated cheetah. Unmotivated, it covers 4 to 5 meters in an hour. The three-toed sloth is not well informed about the outside world. On a scale of 2 to 10, where 2 represents unusual dullness and 10 extreme acuity, Beebe, 1926, gave the sloth's sense of taste, touch, sight, and hearing a rating of 2, and its sense of smell a rating of 3. If you come upon a sleeping three-toed sloth in the wild, 2 or 3 nudges should suffice to awaken it. It will then look sleepily in every direction but yours. Why it should look about it is uncertain, since the sloth sees everything in a magoo-like blur. As for hearing, the sloth is not so much deaf as uninterested in sound. Beebe reported that firing guns next to sleeping or feeding sloths elicit little reaction, and the sloth's slightly better sense of smell could not be overestimated. They are said to be able to sniff and avoid decaying branches, but Bullock, 1968, reported that sloths fall to the ground clinging to decayed branches often. How does it survive, you might ask? Precisely by being so slow. Sleepiness and slothfulness keep it out of harm's way from the notice of jaguars, ocelots, happy eagles, and anacondas. A sloth's hairs shelter to algae that is brown during the dry season and green during the wet season, so the animal blends in with the surrounding moss and foliage and looks like a nest of white ants or of squirrels, or like nothing at all but part of a tree. The three-toed sloth lives a peaceful vegetarian life in perfect harmony with its environment. A good-natured smile is forever on its lips, reported Tiller, 1966. I've seen that smile with my own eyes. I'm not one given to projecting human traits and emotions on animals, but many a time during the month in Brazil, looking up at sloths in repose, I felt I was in the presence of upside-down yogis deep in meditation, or hermits deep in prayer, wise beings whose intense imaginative lives were beyond the reach of my scientific probing. Sometimes I got my majors mixed up. A number of my fellow religious studies students, muddled agnostics who didn't know which way was up, who were in the thrall of reason, that fool's gold of the bright, reminded me of the three-toed sloth. And the three-toed sloth, such a beautiful example of the miracle of life, reminded me of God. Sorry, my mouth is dry. I never had problems with my fellow scientists. Scientists are a friendly, atheistic, hard-working, beer-drinking lot whose minds are preoccupied with sex, chess, and baseball when they are not preoccupied with science. I was a very good student, if I may say so myself. I was top at St. Michael's College 4 years in a row. I got every possible student award from the Department of Zoology. If I got none from the Department of Religious Studies, it is simply because there are no student awards in this department. The rewards of a religious study are not in mortal hands, we all know that. I would have received the Governor General's Academic Medal, the University of Toronto's highest undergraduate award, of which no small number of illustrious Canadians have been recipients, were it not for a beef-eating pink boy with a neck like a tree trunk and a temperament of an unbearable good cheer. I still smart a little at the slight. When you've suffered a great deal in life, each additional pain is both unbearable and trifling. My life is like a memento mori painting from European art. There is always a grinning skull at my side to remind me of the folly of human ambition. I mock this skull. I look at it and I say, "You've got the wrong fellow. You may not believe in life, but I don't believe in death. Move on." The skull snickers and moves ever closer, but that doesn't surprise me. The reason death sticks so closely to life isn't biological necessity, it's envy. Life is so beautiful that death has fallen in love with it, a jealous, possessive love that grabs at what it can. But life leaps over oblivion lightly, losing only a thing or two of no importance, and gloom is but the passing shadow of a cloud. The pink boy also got the rod from the Rhodes Scholarship Committee. I love him, and I hope that time at Oxford was a rich experience. If Lakshmi, goddess of wealth, one day favors me bountifully, Oxford is 5th on the list of cities I would love to visit before I pass on, after Mecca, Varanasi, Jerusalem, and Paris. I have nothing to say of my working life, only that a tie is a noose, and inverted though it is, it will hang a man nonetheless if he's not careful. I love Canada. I miss the heat of India, the food, the house lizards on the walls, the musicals on the silver screen, the cows wandering the streets, the crows cawing, even the talk of cricket matches. But I love Canada. It is a great country, much too cold for good sense, inhabited by compassionate, intelligent people with bad hairdos. Anyway, I have nothing to go home to in Pondicherry. Richard Parker has stayed with me. I've never gotten him. Dare I say I miss him? I do. I miss him. I still see him in my dreams. There are nightmares mostly, but nightmares tinged with love. Such is the strangeness of the human heart. I still cannot understand how he could abandon me so unceremoniously without any sort of goodbye, without looking back even once. That pain is like an axe that chops at my heart. The doctors and nurses at the hospital in Mexico were incredibly kind to me, and the patients too. Victims of cancer or car accidents, once they had heard my story, they hobbled and wheeled over to see me. They and their families, though none of them spoke English, and I spoke no Spanish. They smiled at me, shook my hand, patted me on the head, left gifts of food and clothing on my bed. They moved me to uncontrollable fits of laughing and crying. Within a couple days, I could stand, even make 2, 3 steps, despite nausea, dizziness, and general weakness. Blood tests revealed that I was anemic and that my level of sodium was very high and my potassium low. My body retained fluids and my legs swelled up tremendously. I looked as if I had been grafted with a pair of elephant legs. My urine was a deep, dark yellow, going to brown. After a week or so, I could walk just about normally, and I could wear shoes if I didn't lace them up. My skin healed, though I still have scars on my shoulders and back. The first time I turned on a tap, it's noisy, wasteful, superabundant gush, but it was such a shock that I became incoherent and my legs collapsed beneath me and I fainted in the arms of a nurse. The first time I went to Indian restaurant in Canada, I used my fingers. The waiter looked at me critically and said, "Fresh off the boat, are you?" I blanched. My fingers, which a second before had been taste buds savoring the food of a little ahead of my mouth, became dirty under his gaze. They froze like criminals caught in the act. I didn't dare lick them. I wiped them guiltily on my napkin. He had no idea how deeply those words wounded me. They were like nails being driven into my flesh. I picked up the knife and fork. I had hardly ever used such instruments. My hands trembled. My sambar lost its trance. Chapter 2. He lives in Scarsborough. He's a small, slim man, no more than 5'5", dark hair, dark eyes, hair graying at the temples. Can't be older than 40. Pleasing coffee-colored complexion. Mild fall weather, yet puts on a big winter parka with fur-lined boots for the walk to the diner. Expensive face. Speaks quickly, hands flittering about. No small talk. He launches forth. Okay, and that was the end of chapter 1 and 2 of Life of Pi. Interested so far. Interested. I thought it would start, him getting onto the boat with the tiger, or like that would be very early. And it could still be very early. I mean, I'm only 8 pages in. But that's neat that they have the already fresh off the boat comment affecting him. Sorry about pronunciation of certain words. My throat is really dry. I don't know why. But yeah, I'm interested so far. I'm liking it. I'm intrigued. Definitely would read more even without a camera on me saying after I promised to read the entire thing. Very, very interested. If the chapters are this short, I might do a video kind of thing. But yeah, definitely interested. Good job so far, and that is all for this video. Please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe and feel free to like and comment and subscribe in the comments and the bar. I'm sorry, this is awkward. Alright, I'll end it here. Have a good day.